I want you to come to an understanding and take a vow that I am taking full responsibility for my own life so that I can expand my consciousness and be free, that I get to create myself in this moment. Now, this is not to create any kind of blame or shame or guilt if you fall. No, just the opposite. It's just to take the vow so that you become more and more conscious, take more and more responsibility as the kind of individual you want to be, more and more and more. And then when you fall, you get back up and try again, you see? But if you don't establish an intentionality, then you're not going to clear the filter of the past memory that's giving you a perception that's creating the experience over and over and over again, that anybody can just come up and just push a button on you, cause a trigger, and make you go crazy. Why would you want to give your power away like that? You see? So when we talk about transcendence through surrender, we're talking about that when there is a moment and then a way of life by which you are surrendering, of which I am surrendering, and which we are surrendering to the higher power, called by whatever name you want to call it. We're surrendering to justice. We're surrendering to love. We're surrendering to order. We're surrendering to God. We're surrendering to peace. When an act of surrender becomes a way of living, it creates a vibrational frequency of transcending all the gook that's within us, and it transcends our spiritual ego. When we learn about all of these things, enlightenment, we learn about all these things, moksha, spiritual liberation, we learn about all these things, satori, we learn about all these things, nirvana, we learn about all these things. Sometimes there's a spiritual ego that's formed that establishes that as an intention. I'm heading for enlightenment, I'm heading for freedom, I'm heading for moksha, I'm heading for satori, and what happens is the ego takes that over, and sometimes we lose the whole soul devotion to the presence of God, and we have this spiritual ego's narrow view of what enlightenment is. When you surrender to service of the One, you're in service to justice, you're in service to love, you're in service to life. It transcends the spiritual ego, and guess what? Your spiritual practice brings you to higher and higher states of enlightenment. The word higher is really a linguistic convenience, because there's no high or low and deep and shallow in a presence, because the presence is everywhere in its fullness, and there's no more presence over there than there is over there, because over there is really over there, really over there is over here, really over here is there. Anyway, when you get there, you realize that there is here. So there's no high or low. So in other words, when you surrender to service, you transcend the spiritual ego's desire of what enlightenment is, and you end up expanding your awareness into states of enlightenment anyway. In other words, there's a lot of stuff going down on the planet, a lot of things happening. We got a lot of agendas, we got a lot of reform, a lot of change to take place, and we want change. I was saying in an earlier service, I saw this image in my head as I was speaking, and there was a man speaking to a crowd. He says, "How many want change?" And everybody raised their hand. And then he said, "How many want to change?" And nobody's hand went up, you know. So we all want change, but nobody wants to change. And so when we surrender, we're activists, we're artists, we're whatever our particular gifted area. We want to make sure that we are, through the power of surrender to life and to beauty, we're transcending our ego's idea of what we want. What we want may be perfectly fine, but we want to surrender. We want to yield to life, so that we become the tip of the spear of life, longing for its expression. Not just what we think we want in any given moment. Oh my God. So then when we're out and we are working for justice, we are really in service to justice. We feel what justice is, and it uses us. Love uses us. Peace uses us. Joy uses us. Dynamic beauty uses us. We don't become a fascist in our own little ways of righteousness. We become a fiat of the presence of God, you see. Therefore, we become lovers. Remember what Che Guevara said. he said, in substance, to this I must confess that the true motivation of a revolutionary is love. So at some point, we have to surrender to love. We have to surrender to peace. We have to surrender to joy. We've got to surrender to beauty. We've got to surrender to justice. We've got to surrender to right action. And in that moment of surrender, we have a moment of transcendence. And then all the things that we want, spiritual enlightenment, spiritual awakening, we find that little by little by little, our consciousness expands because we are in service to the Most High presence and power and love of God, you see.